greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
All right, everybody. Welcome to A Dose of Reality, podcast number 2 coming at you. I'm excited to get started.
Hey.
It's Nathan here with Chris, your
Hello.
two hosts. Hoping to send you some entertainment and maybe drop some knowledge on you as well.
All kinds of knowledge.
All kinds. Whoop, 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 whoop. I'm really excited to get started today. I don't know if you can hear my voice, but I'd like to bring up something we should have in the first episode, and that's the intro.
Oh, definitely.
The Charlie Chaplin speech itself. There was one point in my life I would wake up every morning, and I would listen to this first thing in the morning. The first thing I would listen to is the Charlie Chaplin speech, and it was excellent. Great way to start the day with some good vibrations. If you ask me, I got to put it in probably the top speech of all time. And I think it's pretty ironic that what I would say the greatest speech I've ever heard is given by a silent actor, a guy who spent his entire career doing silent movies, just improvising, doing improvisation. And I think it's an excellent way to start the podcast and also pretty much sum up what we want to be able to offer, something that inspiring to our audience, or maybe not on that level, but at least eye-opening. And Chris, go ahead. What do you think about the speech?
I think it's probably the greatest speech that I've ever heard, man. Charlie Chaplin, kind of like what you said, man. It's just awesome and inspiring from a guy who spent his whole career silently, observing people and culture, and then just coming out with a blast of knowledge, man. It's every time I listen to that speech, I get amped up. Absolutely amped up.
Yeah, me too. First time I heard it, I got the goosebumps.
The goosies.
And even sometimes when I hear it, if I'm feeling down or something and I hear that shit, I still get the goosebumps. Another thing I want to note about the first podcast is we're going to be cutting down the swearing. And
Definitely.
just a little bit. It's going to exist, but I feel like maybe we got a little excited, a little ahead of ourselves, and swore, especially for me. I don't know, Chris, not so much. Me, I swore a lot.
We definitely want to not only target people our age, but we want to target people of all ages, and we want the show to be able to be played anywhere and
anytime.
Anytime. And we don't want ourselves getting decredited just because we got a little bit of a potty mouth when we get too passionate.
Yeah, you know how people can be easily judgmental, especially the older generations. But yeah, I mean that's just how it is. So I mean, we like judgment. We want feedback on our podcast, but
definitely
the swearing's getting cut down. We want to sound more sophisticated, more scholarly, and sound like we know what we're talking about, even if we don't.
Yeah, and, one thing to say, just because we're doing this and just because we're pulling up different topics does not mean that we are the authority on anything that we say. We're the authority on our own life experiences and the lessons that we've pulled from them. But, when we pull up these big topics, there are some things that we are ignorant of. And that's where I think Nate is coming in with that, and that we want people to challenge us, because this podcast is all about growth and opening up our minds. So if there's something, some topic, some perspective that, you think is a little bit limited coming out of us, we want to hear that. And
come on the show if you know better than us.
Yes,
please. We welcome that too. We're going to be doing interviews coming up. We got some good people coming up. We're going to keep it a surprise.
Yeah,
but
lots of good
just
people.
Know we got interviews coming with some pretty credible people in some different fields. Spirituality, science, etc.
Some biologists. We got some people in like the psychic energy works, different spiritual traditions, environmentalists. So it's going to be good.
Yep. And also, if you know interesting people, feel free to contact us. Not a problem. We'll try to get back to everybody we can. Absolutely. We want people to listen, and we want to hear feedback, like we said. We're going to touch on a lot of things today, but I'd like to get started with... hold on 1 second. We have two mics today. We upgraded from podcast one. We were sharing a mic. Picture us sitting in a room, passing the mic back and forth, trying to touch on all these topics.
One step closer. So now
we're one step closer. We got two mics, but you might hear a slight echo.
Yeah, two mics in the room. We didn't think about the fact that these things were invented to pick up sound vibrations and that.
Who would have thought?
We got a pretty good software editing program, so you might hear some echoes during the show, so apologize for any inconvenience. But I think our main topic, Nate, is going to be fear.
Fear propaganda.
Be
and
afraid.
Programming.
Very afraid.
You should be scared right now. You might want to turn this podcast off.
Yeah, turn it off. No.
Just kidding. But so fear programming, it's in the media. It spreads like wildfire. It's everywhere. This is why we see insurance everywhere. It's why we have $1 trillion military budget. It's why some people go to the doctors once a week because they read some crazy stuff on WebMD.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Paranoia, fear, anxiety runs rampant throughout society. I guarantee you know plenty of people with one of those things. Bipolar, depression. Chris is going to go ahead and give you some statistics on those subjects and why they're so high. We're going to talk about why they're so high, how they get that way, etc., etc.
Fear, so quote unquote, fear is the mind killer. That's Frank Herbert from Dune. The biggest, I've been doing some research.
You can look this stuff up.
Yeah, I've been doing some research in an effort to bring some scholarly data to our podcast and not just be talking from our own, minds on
memory or opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. We want to get some data here, and through various articles on fear, I think. Since, I got my bachelor's in psych, and a big topic for me is mental health. And in terms of mental illness and anxiety, in 2011 there was a survey by Medco, which is a big pharmacy industry or corporation, but Medco documented prescription pill habits of 2.5 million Americans. Again, this was in 2011.
Now, when you say habits, is this people just prescribed, or does that include people abusing them, or is that just the data they have on how many they prescribe?
So 2.5 million people who take prescription pills.
All right, I guess according to their data, right?
Yeah, according to Medco's data.
All right.
That 1 in 5 of their population size. 1 in 5 of the U.S. adults use prescriptions to treat mental illness. So 2.5 million is a pretty big sample size. So I think that's pretty valid.
I'd say it was more. That number seems kind of low.
Well, out of 2.5 million, there's 450 million people.
Yeah. Well, is the study just 2.5 million, or are they saying that's all the people that use pills?
No.
The study's 2.5 million.
The population sample is 2.5 million.
Okay, never mind. Continue on your point. I apologize.
So out of those 2.5 million, 1 in 5 use those prescriptions to treat mental illness.
Yep.
So you can get prescriptions for bodily pain too.
Yep.
So 1 in 5 out of those people use it to treat mental illness exclusively. And out of that sample size, 22%. There was a 22% increase of adults taking mental drugs from 2001 to 2010. A 22% increase, and also 100% increase from that time period, 2001 to 2010, of children under the age of 10 using antipsychotic medication.
Now that
a 10-year-old is getting dosed with antipsychotics.
Dude, did we ever stop to think maybe it's society that sucks and not the kids? I mean,
being a product of this myself, I was put on.
Yeah, you have personal experience with this. My mother's anti-pill everything.
I was put on Ritalin, I think at the age of, so I was still living in my hometown. I moved from my hometown when I was 9 or 10, and I remember this being in the mid years of that. So I might have been like 7, 8. And I was put on, and I remember being told, yeah, we got to put you on Ritalin because you're just too energetic. And, I can't say that it's like a problem with the industry as much as it is just parents don't know how to handle some of these things. They see their kids
Yeah, it's absolutely back to what we talked about in the first one about giving our power to authority. And parents do it all the time with their kids, with what you're saying right now. You're giving kids Ritalin and Adderall, and I'm sorry, but that's insane. And I'm sure plenty of you out there take these drugs for your ADHD or ADD. But to give 6-year-olds a prescription pill on a daily basis, that is a gateway drug. You're going to open a whole new door. When that kid grows up, he's going to think all types of pills are fine. Yeah, but not only that, but you're fucking with their brain chemistry early on in life.
Very early.
It's not right.
While they're still forming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
we don't have long-term studies on this stuff is the other issue too. So we don't even know what type of damage we're really doing.
Yeah, it's a very recent sort of outbreak. But you put a kid in this school system where you put them in a chair for 8 hours a day, and you're surprised that a little 8-year-old kid who's supposed to be, being creative and playing and doing all that sort of stuff, you're putting him in a chair for 8 hours a day, and you don't expect him to be sort of jumping out of his seat. I honestly can't remember how energetic I was, but I was told by my mom, yeah, you have ADD and ADHD, attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Now, can you tell me what type of tests do they put you through to tell you that you have too much energy?
Remember when, but again, that comes back to the parents just don't know how to handle these sort of things. So naturally, they turn to the people who they have the most reliability and who have the most knowledge, and that's the doctors. So
yeah, you figure this person who went to all this school, paid all this money, they know what they're talking about. But ultimately, the other issue too is the monetary gain they have in giving your kids pills and giving you pills too. I'm not going to mention who this is, but someone in my close family, or my girlfriend's close family, went to the doctors, and they wanted to put her on on something called a mood stabilizer. And then she was like, nah, I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to you when I get back in a couple of weeks, when I come back here in a couple of weeks. And she goes back there, and the doctor changed his mind. He's like, nah, no, I don't want to do that particular mood stabilizer because you'll have to see another doctor, and he'll make the money on it. And that's how this works. These doctors make a small I don't know what the percentage, so I'm not even gonna speculate on that. These doctors make a percentage on these drugs, on the pharmaceutical. That's why they cost so much and the generic ones don't. But when they prescribe you drugs, they're profiting on that. Not only are you paying them for the visit, but if they get you to take their drugs, vaccines, whatever they say, they profit from it, and that creates a conflict of interest, and we need to realize that.
So, just to go on with that personal story, because, I feel like there are people out there who can relate.
Millions of them, yeah.
I was on these drugs for quite a while, and now, I always had these memories of my mom giving me, having me to take these pills in the morning. They were so big, dude. Like, I just didn't. It was
especially
so hard for me to take
dude,
them.
I couldn't even take Tylenol and stuff.
But so I was on these pills from the age of, 7 or something, until I moved in 2001 through grade 6 in middle school. And I specifically remember the exact day, I was taking my pills. I think at that point we switched from Ritalin to Adderall. And I just remember being in class, and I had this rush of energy, I felt, now knowing that what we were giving our kids is amphetamines, I felt like I was like a Superman, dude. Like, I had so much of this electricity feeling through my veins that I felt like I could, I felt that I had the power to punch right through a cement brick wall. I really felt that. And no, I wasn't going to actually do that, but I was conscious enough to have the awareness that that's what my body felt like. So I went home and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I don't want to take this anymore. This is not making me feel good, man. So I stopped taking them at, how old is a middle school kid?
Middle school kid, I mean, you're talking 12, 13, maybe 14. Yeah, I think 14.
No, not 6th grade, bro.
What grade are you talking about?
So the teenagers now, there's a 13-year-old in 8th grade, and I was a year younger than most people. So maybe I was 9, 10?
Yep.
Yeah, like 10. So I was on those pills for 4 years, and then I stopped them. I was off of them from mid 6th grade until for the rest of my college career, until I got to school to UMass Amherst when I was an engineer, and I was just confused at how I couldn't focus. One, I hated the work that I was doing, so I barely had an interest in it. But I would be in class and I'm trying to focus, and my mind would move itself and start to think about the squirrels that were outside, or the clouds, or how it was a cold day. So I'm just not able to focus.
Of course, little kids need stimulation.
And so I got back on them in my freshman year of college through a really good friend who recommended me to a doctor. And I go to this doctor, and he wants me to do all the tests, and I'm like, dude, trust me, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And he wants me, let's put you on a 3-week trial, take them in small doses. And, that's what, that is proven, you need to adapt to it, and you need to, but then again, those 2 or 3 weeks are going to get you used to it and are going to build up more and more of a dependency. So I got a really high dose right then and there. And just seeing what that did to me was amazing. The effect that it had on me, on my focus, on my it was whatever my mind was put on, I was immediately focused 100% on. I would want to do my work. So I took those pills for another year, and in my In my junior year of college, the first year is when I was taking behavioral neuroscience and psychology. And we were going over how these drugs work. And what they do is they mimic activities that already go on. And from that day forward, I took all my pills, I flushed them down the toilet, and I'm like, look, if these things are just mimicking a natural process that can go on in my own mind, then I need to take control of this and start to just do it. Sorry for going on a long tangent, but I just felt like I needed to share that.
No, absolutely, you got it off your chest. But how do you feel off of them? You feel better off of them?
It was a struggle.
But once you're on it for so long, they create dependency too. Is the other problem?
Definitely. But to know that knowledge, man, that little bit of information broke the whole thing, because it's our ignorance to these sort of things that lead us down these paths. So once that information came that could clear up the ignorance, I had a whole new type of motivation to go in that. And it feels good to know that I'm not taking amphetamines anymore just by itself, and to just get a little more knowledge of how your mind works. And there's so much about the falseness of the whole ADHD thing, but I don't have the resources or the information to go into that now.
My personal belief is my personal belief, especially in children, that is a sham. I have a 4-year-old. She's hyper. She has lots of energy. She wakes up at 6 a.m. running around.
Of course, man.
Dude.
She's like 4 years old.
Yeah, she doesn't work 50 hours a week. You know what I mean? When she's sitting in school 6-7 hours a day with all this energy, it wears on them, and they can't sit still for that long because they're not meant to sit still for that long. We're trying to go against our own human nature and force them to sit there that long, and we've only gotten stricter with it instead of more open and free. Not every school. There's some schools that are more open, and I think those schools need to come out more, and teachers need to have more say. Teachers do good work, but they need to get the act together and get these kids out playing more and making school more fun, because it's a shame to put 6-year-olds on drugs rather than go to the real problem, which is how these schools.
Antipsychotics.
These are some serious drugs. I mean, there's a top neuroscientist. This is what I want to get into too about that. Going off your tangent, there's a top neuroscientist named Dr. Carl Hart, and you can find him all over the internet. He will go and he will tell you that Adderall and meth are the same drug. And in fact, someone on the street who does street meth, and when you offer them Adderall or street meth, they'll take Adderall because less bad side effects, and
Definitely.
they get a longer high, they say.
Yeah.
And this is what he'll say. And he's a doctor, he's a well-known neuroscientist, and this is his opinion and exactly what he's going to say. And it's the same chemical compounds, and we're giving that to 6-7-year-olds. We're giving them pharmaceutical speed. It's kind of insane. It really is.
I got more data too.
And then also, I got this article right in front of me for you, the placebo effect and how strong it can be. Does the Adderall really work, or is some of it placebo? And I'm gonna go ahead and read a paragraph to you of how placebo works. So expectation. This is Harvard. Yeah, this is Harvard Medical School. It's an article on their website. Just if you want to find it, just type in how effective is the placebo effect. The power of expectation. Expectations appear to have a lot to do with the effect. If an intervention is believed to help a condition, a certain percentage of people who receive it will experience some benefit. How large a percentage varies tremendously and depends on the condition, the strength of belief, the subjectivity of the response, and many other factors. The placebo effect might also have an element of psychology conditioning. Once someone benefits from an intervention, the person starts to associate that intervention with a benefit. The association and therefore the benefit may get stronger with additional exposures to that intervention. An effective care that's caring. This is continuing on that right there. There's also evidence that some of the placebo effect is a favorable reaction to care and attention from people who patients believe can ease their suffering distress. This goes back to the same thing, giving your power to these authorities. People believe these doctors. So when they say you're going to die in 3 months, some people do because they believe it so much. And this is Harvard Medical School giving this. Let me finish this real quick.
Yeah, sure.
And then going off that, I stopped at suffering and distress. Researchers associated with Harvard's placebo study programs published a study in 2008 that illustrates this aspect of the response very nicely. The volunteers for the study were people with irritable bowel syndrome, a condition that causes abnormal pain and changes in bowel movements in the absence of any discretionable changes to the bowel. The placebo treatment was sham acupuncture, which involved the use of needles that, unbeknown to the patient, retract into their handles instead of penetrating the skin. The placebo effect of sham acupuncture needles was impressive. 44% of those treated with the sham needles reported relief from their IBS problems. It's all in their head. When sham acupuncture was combined with a tentative, empathetic interaction, basically the acupuncturist being really nice to them and caring, the placebo effect got even larger, with 62% reporting belief from their IBS woes. So just the doctor's belief and care and attention into it changed the outcome of this Harvard medical study. The placebo effect is absolutely real and plays a huge role that we it seems mainstream, we don't give it enough credit. And I think this article adds some validation to that statement.
So just to give my little personal 2 cents on the placebo effect, and me and Nate have had this little argument for a long time before. You know, I definitely agree that the placebo effect does work in certain cases and for some people. But I just need to give credit to my own experience and the experience of others that when you take Adderall, you're actually going through a biochemical process.
Yeah, that's undeniable.
You feel like your body is going, 1,000 miles per hour. So maybe in some sort of, like there are, like I've taken some classes where we've gone through statistical data that have made conclusions based on the placebo effect. But I just wanted to give some credit to the experience of those who have had these real effects and have felt it. But I do want to go off more on the data that we have here for mental illness and anxiety and not go too far off tangent. So from June 20...
I'll go off of that when he finishes with his data.
From June 2015, from the Anxiety Center, 40 million people in the U.S. will be impaired in some way as a result of anxiety-related conditions. And only 10% will get treated in a way that meets their needs. So in the first aspect of that 40 million people in the U.S. are going to be impaired in some way as a result of anxiety-related conditions.
Yep. It's all that
we
fear
think
we pump
about
out.
fear. So, fear has been definitely the number one factor thrown in our face. At any given moment, we are afraid of terrorist attacks, Ebola, gun violence, food poisoning,
West Nile, you name it. Look
many things.
Look at what fear has done to
climate
Chipotle.
Change, man.
Look at what fear has done to Chipotle with that E. coli outbreak. They've lost a lot of business. You go there on a Saturday night now, or at least the ones I've been to, it's kind of dead. They've lost a lot of business because of that fear campaign by the media.
Drug fear campaigns and fear of the quote unquote other, like people of other races, of cultures, of ethnicities.
Those are some of the worst ones. Yeah.
And dude, when the thing is that when we are afraid, and sorry that I don't have the actual study in front of me that goes through the neurological processing, but when we are afraid, we don't think clearly. Fear does not allow us to be reasonable. Fear distorts emotions and perceptions and leads to poor decisions. So, look, by saying this, I'm not exclusively saying that there's some big conspiracy that people are pulling strings, maybe in certain aspects. But when you have a populace that is run by certain people who have certain agendas to impose fear upon them, makes them not have as much insight, makes them lazy, and it keeps them scared in their little box. But on the second part, that only 10% out of that 40 million who are affected by anxiety-related conditions will get treated in a way that meets their needs. Only 10%. I got a buddy of mine who has gone through some sort of psychotic kind of episodes, and he goes through people. He's told to go to these one people who specialize in this stuff, who, in some aspects, they don't really give a whole story. They're only trained in one aspect, so all their whole paradigm is only on one way. So they're telling him, yes, you need all this psychotic medication, and that's going to cure up your symptoms. But they don't touch on any of the other parts of his being. They don't touch on how he's channeling his emotions, how he channels thoughts in a productive way, how his diet is. They don't, and I don't think personally that is meeting his needs. And 10% out of 40 million, only 4 million of those people are going to be treated in a way that meets their needs, man.
Because these doctors aren't meeting their full needs. But before I go off, I'm going to go off my tangent, but after this, I want you to tell the people what is your ultimate goal, because it ties into what you just said there. These doctors not meeting people's needs, and I know you want to be someone that's able to meet all these people's needs in a mental manner, but we're going to save that. Yeah. So what I wanted to say, one of the biggest things of fear, we live in a society, and I know you got some notes over there on this. We live in a society that just wants to consume. We're always in competition. We call ourselves a capitalist society. It's not really capitalism. It's controlled capitalism. Corporations control it. But we have a society where one of the biggest things we're taught to fear is the fear of never having enough. And that's why we're constantly consuming things, myself included. I feel like a hoarder sometimes because I'm really not that organized, and I have all this stuff. I have a pretty decent sized house, and I still feel like I have too much stuff. And we just consume way too much. We're always afraid we don't have enough. Going out, keep buying more and more.
So my ultimate goal, or at least my idea of where I want to go, which most likely will be, changed as time goes on, but the foundation is I want to open up a holistic, drug-free therapeutic practice that incorporates each person's threefold nature, their mind, body, and spirit. Because nowadays you go to a physician and they'll only cater to one little sliver of your whole human pie, and then you got to go to another specialist for your lungs, another specialist for this and for that, and for your nutrition you got to go to a nutritionist, and for this you got to go to that, and then you got to pay them more money to do that, and we are just not getting our needs met fully. We're only getting catered to one aspect of ourselves, and it keeps us a little limited. So to incorporate our threefold nature in a healthcare practice is my vocational goal.
I'm going to give you a quote from this book, Propaganda, by Edward Bernays, who's the nephew of Sigmund Freud. You might have heard of him. And
the man.
So Edward Bernays is the father of modern propaganda. He's given credit for making bacon and eggs a staple breakfast item for the American public. He himself takes credit for getting women to smoke cigarettes, getting a majority of women to smoke cigarettes through his propaganda campaigns. He was paid for it by the cigarette companies. He's paid for it by bacon industry and the egg industry to sell more product. This is what he did. And he wrote a book. He wrote a book called Propaganda back in the 1920s. And this book was all about, I've read this book twice. And this book is all about how to use propaganda. And world leaders, giant corporations, they use this book. Propagandaists is an actual job out there, and they use this book as a reference.
Now it's called marketing.
Now instead of propaganda, it's marketing. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. There you go. I'm glad you added that. Yeah. So here, I'm just gonna give you one quote from the book, and it's the opening quote. This is the first quote in the book, by the way.
The first page.
Chapter 1, Organizing Chaos, is the name of the chapter. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. I'm gonna stop right there. Sounds about right. I mean, he's correct when he says that. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government. The Boston Globe has a great article on an invisible government controlling us, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast number of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. Our invisible governors are in many cases unaware of the identity of the fellow members of the inner cabinet of the invisible government.
Quote, unquote.
Quote, unquote. This guy is the father of modern propaganda, and he just told you how it is. Absolutely. And this is the 20s we're talking about.
Yeah. When was this book published?
This book is the copyright date. Give me 1 second. The copyright date is 1928 by Edward Bernays.
1928, pre-World War II.
Pre-World War II, yep, when propaganda really started taking off around this time, and he was thanks to Edward Bernays, honestly, and thanks to his uncle Sigmund Freud for helping him with teaching him how to manipulate the mass mind, the general population.
Yo, so I saw this one video on marketing, this big marketing lady, and again, I'm sorry that I don't have the name, but I'll be sure to throw it up in the description. This marketing woman gave a talk to an audience on the secrets of the marketing industry. Now, she did the whole talk, and then at the end, she goes, okay, I'm going to give you guys the biggest secret that they don't want you to know. This is what the big marketers need in order to thrive. Nate, what do you think that one thing was?
I don't know. Secrecy?
Nope.
Manipulation?
Nope.
A knowledge of psychology?
Nope.
I don't know. Go ahead. Tell
they
the people.
Need you. They changed the slide, and all it was YOU.
Yep.
If you're not driving down those freeways, there's nobody to see the signs.
Exactly.
They need you. They need us to be there to see what they are selling us. They need our attention. Yeah. Attention is everything for these people.
Power doesn't even exist without other people's attention towards someone's power.
You know, like the little strategies and the colors and the big words are all just little icing on the cake.
Yep.
But if they don't have you sitting in those movie theaters there to watch everything,
it's useless.
If you're not there on your couch from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and you're not watching those specific stations, and they don't have you, they don't have a business. Yep. Marketing is all about the consumer, you.
Yep, absolutely. And like I just said about power, power really means nothing. It's other people's opinions of what type of power you have. Like the president, they call the president the most powerful man in the world. But if you take President Barack Obama or any president, any leader of a country, and you put him in the middle of an island with no help from anybody, how powerful is he? He's not powerful at all because there's no one around to make him powerful. The power comes from us. It's the mass population that gives kings, queens, and presidents their power. It's not that Obama is Superman. He has these crazy powers. He can shoot laser beams out of his eyes. His only power comes from us giving him that power. By consenting to the things he does and the fancy pieces of paper called laws. By us consenting, that is the power.
Yeah, the founding fathers said that if you're not comfortable and you don't like your government and the people who are running, you should be able to go there and overthrow them. But people, you wouldn't dare to even do that. I mean, even I wouldn't dare currently because of the way that
and people say, oh well, just go protest it. I went to a protest, the Million Man March, the anonymous mass thing. I went to that, and
you didn't go to what?
It was useless. I went to D.C.
A Million Man March. Where?
The Million Mass March that they do every November 5th. All right, I went to one a couple years, 3 years ago. Yeah, drove down to D.C. Last minute decision with my buddy Alan. We go down there.
How many people were there?
Just me and Alan. Across the world, there was about 1 million. But in D.C., I'd say 2,000, 3,000 people.
Yeah, that's not
we
enough.
marched through the street. We marched to Capitol Hill, chanting stuff. I mean, it was surreal. It was cool to be a part of. But did it accomplish anything? Absolutely not. Didn't get any media coverage or anything. I mean, we literally shut down the street from the White House to Capitol Hill. We shut down that street for like 15, 20 minutes while walking over there.
20 minutes?
Yeah. Yes.
What the hell?
Yeah. We had a police escort and stuff like that. Whatever. But we do this, and it doesn't even make the mainstream news. All the alternative news has had it, and I had it, and I shared.
Meanwhile,
some
on Fox NBC,
I got some pictures. Yeah, I got some
crashes
pictures.
Into your neighbor's
house. I got
house.
some pictures of it. Me standing in front of the Capitol building with a peace sign and an anonymous mask on. But ultimately, it was useless. These protests don't do anything. It's like voting. Just like voting doesn't do much. Voting for the lesser of two evils, especially, doesn't do anything. But they'll tell you, John Oliver last night had a great episode about delegates. And what the hell is a delegate? It's like, dude, imagine, and he gave a great example. He was talking about, I think, Dancing with the Stars, and he was like, imagine Dancing with the Stars went to this voting system where the public voted for the Dancing with the Stars, but they were only opinions, because there's actually a group of delegates that get to pick the winners of the Dancing with the Stars, and you have no idea what their opinion is. But you can send in your suggestions to these 10 delegates, right? If that happened on Dancing with the Stars, people would be out in the streets. Yeah, your vote counts as a suggestion. That's our election system works like that. When you vote, it goes to a delegate, and the delegate gets to vote on your behalf. Don't worry, they got you. Just like your congressman got you. Just like your presidents, they represent you. Don't forget that.
So all right. So next thing I want to side into is what we've been talking about too. Besides just that, is fear culture, man.
Fear culture.
So
everywhere.
Fear culture. I think the biggest influence was in how we got to where we are now was Cold War, man. People were fearful for their if you see a flash, duck and cover. People were
absolutely.
People were
hide under your desk because a nuclear bomb's going off, folks.
People were feared for their life. They had gas masks for babies, bro.
Yeah.
People were so fearful for their lives all day, every day. It was ingrained into the baby boomers.
That hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere.
So nowadays,
it's ISIS.
We're taught to not leave our country because of fear of rape and of kidnapping, and for this dislike for Americans. Look, I'll tell you, 2014, I went overseas to Kathmandu and Nepal, but we stopped for a 7-hour layover in Dubai. I did not at one point in the Middle East, in Dubai, feel like I was going to be killed, like I was going to be kidnapped, like I was going to be threatened. People were just like us, talking on their cell phones. The friggin' tour guide had some Gucci glasses on. This fear and propaganda is crazy, And
guess what? I bet. I don't know if you can go off if you have experience when you were there, but I bet over there they're not. They're taught that these Americans are savages.
They
blah, blah,
loved
blah.
us, dude.
But
especially in Nepal, dude, they practically wanted to worship us, dude.
Yeah,
like it was insane, dude. Like our society. So one of the most subtle and something that you probably wouldn't even notice, like you would just think is normal because it has been normalized, that our society is based on two factors: survival and competition.
Yep. We went over this a little bit.
Is survival of the fittest? Yes, okay, it's a natural selection process, but is it the most effective really for our society? We're still operating on these primal instincts. Everything is about competition. Now, love culture, not fear culture, unconditional love culture is about mutual respect, honoring the talents of individuals and validating them, not dominating them and dominating the young ones into how we want them to be. That's not love. That's slavery, man. So societies now just play by our rules or you get no support. And you see that all over, man.
Absolutely. And speaking on survival of the fittest, Darwin's treated like a god, as if Darwin was God reincarnated, and he gave us this master theory of evolution that's undisputed, survival of the fittest. Even towards the end of his days, he started to disagree with his own survival of the fittest findings, and nobody who quotes Darwin seems to bring that up. But there's plenty of information and plenty of scientists that believe it's not survival of the fittest, that it's actually survival of those who cooperate the best. And cooperation, where individuals work together in order to create a benefit for the entire group. I know, seems crazy, huh? Seems at odds with what many people assume are the basic forms of evolution. But many scientists believe in that, and so do I. Cooperation is absolutely the best way to go about things. And examples, if you want examples in the wild, ants are masters of cooperation. I'd say bumblebees are masters of cooperation. Fish travel in these giant schools. They live for each other. Birds absolutely do it. Bats do it. Humans, for the most part, we do it. I mean, civilization is all about cooperation. That's what it was started for.
Perfect example. So in now to today's society, if you're in a pack or a group, so perfect example is a wolf pack. When a pack of wolves walks, they will walk in a long straight line. Now you would think that in a wolf pack, the alpha male is up front, leading the pack. No. This is not true. The oldest and the most sick of the pack walks up front. Then goes the next 3 strongest, the rest of the whole pack, the beta, and then the alpha male is like 30 feet, 40 feet behind them.
Keeping a lookout.
The weakest and the oldest set the pace, and the alpha is in the back, directing the whole group. Nowadays, with the oldest and the weakest get set behind. They would rather get thrown off in the dust because I gotta make my money. I gotta fill my quota.
It's sad.
Me.
It's very sad that we live in a society where a lot of people, I can't say everybody because not everybody will do this, but a lot of people will send their parents off to a nursing home or have someone else take care of them. These are the people that brought you into this world. And these are the people that raised you. And maybe I can see if your parent wasn't good to you growing up, you have some bitter feelings. But honestly, you should be the bigger person and just let it go. That's easier to say than do, but this is something I practice on my own. But anyways, it's sad that people will ship their parents off rather than take care of the people who took care of them. And that's just not right.
Unless they're treating their parents like shit still and they don't even know it.
Yeah, I mean, if you agree to take care of your parents and then claim it's a burden on you, then shame on you. You shouldn't feel that way. You agreed to do something and they raised you, and when they need the help later on in life, you should be there. You're going to want your kids to be there, that's for sure. Yeah. But a little bit back to the field culture. I'm backtracking a little bit. I wanted to go off on the field culture and how that plays into insurance. We have insurance for everything. It's out of control. House insurance, pet insurance, car insurance, liability insurance, business insurance. We even insure our lives. That's right. Our lives have monetary in value to insurance companies. Our lives are for profit, absolutely. And that's kind of crazy when you really think about it, especially the craziest term life insurance. You're betting. So term life insurance,
it's for your assets, what I know, bro.
It's 15, 20 years. Maybe you can get longer. You're betting that you're going to die within that period. And if you don't, you just wasted thousands of dollars paying for insurance, betting that you were going to die within a 20-year period.
Just for all of your assets and all the stupid crap that you've accumulated. Yeah, no beggar or no person who doesn't have any possessions needs a little life insurance.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's pretty funny to think about that. People will willingly give away $100 a month for some 15-year life insurance, and then they just wasted at the end of let's say it's a 10-year term life insurance at $100 a month. You just wasted $12,000. For what? For what? You didn't want to gamble on you dying and losing your house, your things after death. And I know it's for family security. I know people will say that. Like my mother and my stepfather, they have life insurance. I'm pretty sure if one of them goes, the house is paid off and stuff like that. And I get it.
There are times where you really do need it. I
get
for
it, but
accidents.
it's symbolic of our fear culture. We're always afraid. We're always thinking about what could go wrong instead of what could go right, and that's a big problem.
To what I'm about to
we need to change that mindset overall.
So I got another little bit of information here from Dr. Tim Ung from www.transformind.com. TRANS4mind.com. Transformind.com. So he basically starts to talk about what are some of the things that we're afraid of most, like loneliness, poverty, and pain. And I really honestly agree with the things that he says next. And he says that these fears come from our ignorance of our own divinity, of being a co-creator in your own life. Because if you don't know or don't believe, this kind of separates you from your own divine nature. Like, if you don't think that you have any ability to co-create and create your life circumstances,
hardcore
you have
atheists, man.
Separated yourself from your own divine nature.
Hardcore atheists shut themselves out.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, quote unquote, we are all made of star stuff. Symbolically, and we see it in all the faith traditions, the stars have a connection to like, angelic beings and divine beings.
Yep.
And
always
the degree of fear reflects the degree to which we are separated from our divinity. So oftentimes, if you see somebody who really doesn't demonstrate a lot of fear, they're often in touch with a more higher self, their divine self. Yeah. And now you'll be able to tell when you see somebody who's always in fear of everything. Now you'll be able to say to yourself, that person is so separated from their divine qualities. Yeah. So then Dr. Ong goes on to say, this fear then leads to us believing in our own mortality, putting us into a sense of isolation and a perception of lacking in scarcity rather than prosperity. So now that we are separated from our divineness, now that this ignorance of our divine quality, and the Buddhists say that ego isn't even real, that the ego is created from ignorance.
Yep.
So once we are so enveloped in this ignorance of our divine nature and we become separated from that separation then starts to create the ego. And then we always come from a position of scarcity. So rather than thinking that I have an abundance flowing into me always, we're always saying, oh, I don't have enough for you.
I only have this many left, and
I need this for me. I need this for me,
Yep.
me to survive so I can compete with other people.
Even though you have plenty, yeah.
Yeah, and so the more fear then leads to a higher need to control our life and to control nature and everyone and everything to avoid death. So the more fear, follow us here, the more fear means the more degree to which we are from our divinity. And the more fear there is, the more need we have to control our own lives. Even though the research says this, the sociological research says that, well, we only have, I think, like, and I really hate this data, but it is scientific data, so I'm gonna tell you that 40% of our lives are actually in our control. So the more fear that we have, the more that we need to have more power and control nature, which is how we got into this position in the first place, and control people. Dr. Ong goes on to talk about how fear manifests in a couple ways. It manifests through such things as anger and hatred, and it manifests inwardly like guilt and shame. We're also always in a fear of loss. We're afraid of losing our identity. We're afraid of losing control. We're afraid of losing our security, of our freedom, of our health, of our abundance. But when we eliminate the ego, which is eliminating the idea that we're separate from creating our own lives, which then gets back in touch with our divinity, we then can come back and know that we have abundance all around us. When you get a brand new car, you're elated for a very short time. But when that pleasure dies off, you start to then think about all the things that you're afraid of and all of these things that you don't like and that you're suffering from come back into attention. And the last thing that I really liked on Dr. Tim Ong's page, he said that once an old man said to his grandson, "Boy, I have two tigers here, love and compassion, and the other one is fear and anger." And the boy asked, "Well, which one is gonna win?" And the old man said, "The one I feed."
Yep.
So it's all about, what are you gonna feed? Are you gonna feed into your anger, or are you gonna retake yourself?
I think a skeptic's mind, this would be a skeptic rebuttal, is that all this fear and worry would be from our past, and when we had to live as hunter-gatherers, and we had to have this fear all the time, or we wouldn't have survived this long. And it's something that stayed with us. Well, my arguments would be, number one, we can never truly know human nature until we strip away all environmental factors, which we could never do unless you just had a baby born on an island by itself and see how it came out. But we could never truly know human nature because it's so influenced by environment, and psychology will tell you this. Environment influences us so much that it ends up creating our human nature. What we know as human nature is just culture. It was culture someone was born with. And you can see this by newborns is love. Love seems to be the only consistent that's a part of human nature. Everything else we teach them. The anger, the fear, the frustration, the worry, all that is taught by their environment. Love's the only thing they come out of the womb knowing. And the rest we teach them.
B.F. Skinner said, you give me a fresh baby, unlimited resource, and an open space, and I'll turn that baby into anybody.
Yep, absolutely. And that goes off my own personal idea that if you off of what he just said on that guy's idea, if you took a baby and raised him and taught him that he was Jesus Christ incarnated, he would believe that. He'd be 15 years old and he'd be thinking he was doing miracles and blessings, and he would know the philosophy of Jesus because that's what he was taught. That was his environment he was raised in. And it's not his human nature that he thinks he's Jesus Christ incarnated. It's what he was taught through his environment. So if you took a baby from a newborn to 15 years old and taught him that his whole life, that's what he would believe. He would absolutely believe it, and there would be no telling him otherwise. And this type of fear programming that's everywhere, subconscious programming propaganda is a good term that I like. It's how politicians of all kinds can gain cult-like followings too. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, even Bernie supporters. It's like a cult for these people. Even when you call them on their, even when you call them out on the people they believe in's bullshit, their lies, Hillary's lies, Bernie's lies, Trump's lies, they shut down. Their ego takes over, and they don't want to hear it. They're still going to support that person no matter how many lies you can tell them and prove to them. And it's because of the subconscious programming by these people. They tell them what they want to believe, and certain groups are going to believe it no matter what, and that's a problem. We have to stop doing that as a whole, and it's too bad too, because a lot of these supporters, when let's say their party wins, like Barack Obama supporters, which I used to be. When their party wins and they find out that the person they believed in was full of shit, but they already have that power now and they're already in office, it doesn't matter anymore. It's too late. And we keep falling for this cycle of insanity every 4 years for presidential elections, for example. Totally. And we gotta wake up to that, and enough with that.
To go more off of the ideas of, what you're taught is so ingrained in your head. For all you philosophers out there who have probably heard of this, and for those of you who are not so well versed in philosophy, the allegory of the cave.
Yeah, excellent.
And the allegory of the cave was presented by Plato in his work in the Republic to compare the effect of education and the lack of it on our nature. And it's essentially a dialogue between Plato's brother Glaucon and his mentor Socrates. And what it describes is, so imagine for me a large cave, and about a couple of feet off of the back wall of this cave, facing away from the entrance, are three people chained up to a big boulder. They're chained at their necks, their hands, and their feet, and they can't move or turn their heads. They gotta look straight ahead at the blank wall. And up behind them, unbeknownst to them, is a fire that is projecting these little puppet shadows on the walls. This is all that these three people can see, are these little puppet shadows that are moving back and forth. And these people start to create stories about each shadows and give them names and characterize them and create all these imaginings inside of their heads of their only reality. And then Plato goes on to say that, say one of these people had their chains released, and now he can turn and look around in his cave. So he turns and he looks up top, and he sees this little fire and these little puppets moving back and forth. Oh, well, that's weird. And then he goes out to the entrance, and he goes outside, and he sees the grass, and he sees the clouds, he sees the trees, he sees a whole new world that was never there, and he loves it. He's enjoying it, and he feels this ecstasy that it's like everything just came down and this whole new universe opened up. But if that guy went back down to that cave into what he thought of as his old reality, if he went to go talk to those people who are still chained up and say, dude, this isn't it. There's so much more out there, and none of what you're talking about or think is true, they'd laugh in his face. They would laugh in his face and call him psychotic and tell him to go get some antipsychotics and take them 2 times a day.
Just take some Prozac, bro. You're going insane, bro. Go see your doctor, man.
So this very relevant on, and even for my own journey, when I, not only the law of one from what I talked about in the last stage, but
an easy example for
stuff
everybody.
Stuff even like a very practical thing was getting the information that these pharmaceutical drugs just mimic neurotransmitters was an eye-opening thing. And if you go and you try to tell somebody that who's ingrained that they have no control over what's going on and they need this quote-unquote medicine, they might not tell you, but they're going to think that you're a little cuckoo, man.
Yeah, well, a lot of people believe that we're biological victims of our genes, and that's just not the truth either. We can alter our genes. To a degree. Yeah, no, it's true. Some like how you look and some features you're going to have and your voice, height, weight. That an easy example for Plato's Cave for you to recognize in your own life is dreams. I'm sure we've all had dreams. All you listen and you've had a dream where you thought it was real, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't real. But, I mean, what define real? In that dream, you absolutely thought it was real, and then you woke up back to reality, and you got a dose of reality. Like, oh, my God, in comparison to that dream wasn't real. This is real, right? But I think that's a good example of our own little Plato's Caves that we do every night, and that's dreaming. And it's an example. We've all had dreams that felt completely real, but then we wake up and they're not. So if we can be tricked that easily every single night, how else could we be being tricked on a larger scale? With all of our illusions that we buy into. Everything I had to say on
Professor Brian Lickel. He's a sociology professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And I took a class, The Science of Happiness. He presented many, many studies. Again, UMass Amherst is a research-based university. So every professor needs to go off on scientific scholarly data as a requirement for their classes. And the book that we used for our class was a book called The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky. And probably the biggest topic that brought up so much controversy in our class among the whole class, and it was a small class, there was only about 20 of us, maybe less, was she presented the pie chart to our happiness. 10% of our total happiness, according to her data, is thrown out to circumstance. 50%, she said, of our happiness she gave to genetics, and 40% to our own free will. She's making the claim, based on her data, that half of your happiness is already set in stone the moment you come out of the womb.
I'm sorry, that's laughable to me, but continue.
I'm sorry, and even our professor scoffed at it minorly. Look, I'm not trying to taint him, but even he said himself in his lecture that the amount of data that we have from genetics, there's simply not enough data, and that the research shows that a belief in genetic determinism, thinking that your genetics, believing that your genetics solely will determine X, Y, or Z, will lead you to become less happy, and will actually lead to you minusing from that 40%, giving more of the 40% to that supposed 50%.
Yep.
And I just do not accept that half of my life is automatically set in stone. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, anybody that this is a book I read called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. You can listen to his lectures too all over YouTube. Excellent guy. Excellent book. And he talks. He's got his doctorate in genetics, and he talks about.
Yeah, we're over an hour.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And he talks about how your beliefs affect your biology, your genetics, and he gives his studies, he gives his information, he gives his credibility, his own individual experience with it in his book and in his lectures, and he tells you how that's possible and how to do that. So if you're interested in how belief can affect genetics, check out Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and Biology Belief. So yeah, we're going to switch it up. We're going to talk about the creative mind. And I feel like as of right now, the majority of us consume more than we create. And that's something we should try to change. And we have so many new tools for individuals to express their own creativity. 3D printers, virtual reality, graphic design, laser printers, etc., etc. The list goes on. We have access to more stuff to unleash our creativity than we ever had in any point ever. Even a podcast like this allows people like us, anybody, to if they have the equipment, to express themselves freely to millions of people for free. I mean, as long as you have the equipment. If the cost of the equipment and the rest is free, the exposure is free. You just have to do it yourself. Some see technology, especially older generations, as a burden, as a technology is the devil, but it's not. I see it as a blessing to free humans in so many ways, and especially creativity-wise. I'm going to end up going into technology and how it affects us in other podcasts in a different form, but just for this example, I'm talking about creativity. I think it's foolish to not use these to our own and to others' benefits. I think podcasts especially can benefit not just me and Chris and getting this stuff off our minds, but the people listening. And maybe they haven't heard about this stuff, or they think about this stuff and they don't have people to talk to it about. I was once in that situation as well. But I think we should absolutely be taking advantage of this stuff, and that's what we're trying to do here. Like we mentioned in our last podcast, technology like Google has opened up a universal mass of easily accessible knowledge of almost anything you can imagine. So get out there and create something. I recently painted some pictures. It feels real good to let out your inner kid in you, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, to express yourself creativity on a canvas is a pleasing feeling, that's for sure. And then you go ahead, man, and you talk about it.
One of the biggest things that I learned when I was studying abroad in Nepal that stuck in my mind from my professor, because I take myself as a very compassionate person. It's almost tough to bear sometimes, like sometimes it really gets to me and causes some anxiety. But he said that if there was anything like a sin, or like if there was anything that's just really like sad to see, is compassion without action. It's a waste. So for all of those people out there who have something to say and who want to do something deep down, if you're not doing anything with it, it's a waste. And especially with this technology is not evil. Technology has brought us closer together, but it's, are you going to feed the tiger on the left, that's fear and anger, or are you going to feed the love and the compassion? If you use your technology all day to waste your time on Facebook and looking up cat memes, then dude, that is your fault. But no, take that compassion, fuel it, and make your own podcast. Start your own business painting leaves and making murals. Go make anything, man. My
save up, buy a 3D printer.
My stepmom and my dad go and collect sea glass, and they fill up jars and they just put them around the house, and it looks cool. To have that creative stuff flowing in your own home is going to add more love to that place, and it's going to make you feel good that you've done something, and it's really going to affect you on the subtle ways, on the subtle realm.
Yep.
But again, so much on this that we're
the creative mind is going to be this whole podcast, and technology too will probably they'll probably be the same podcast. There'll probably be two main subjects will be technology and the creative mind, how they intertwine, how we're using them, how we can use them better. and all that good stuff. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I got a couple things I got to get off my chest at the end of this. Everybody, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed another what I think to be a good podcast.
Episode 2.
Listen, get out there. You got free time. Go volunteer or something. Do something good for people. Let your creativity out. I just started doing volunteering. This last Sunday, I did a luncheon for 150 homeless people. It feels real good to do. I volunteered twice a month now on Sundays, and what it cost me 7-8 hours of my time over a month period of time. That's nothing. You got the time. Don't make excuses. I know a lot of people talk about, I was one of them, trying to change the world, and we should feed homeless people, do all this stuff, all this good stuff, the humanitarian stuff, but they don't actually go out and do it. And I myself was talking about that and not doing it, and so I've started doing it. I plan to keep doing it. I plan to try to do more. Like I think I mentioned in the last one, we want to do something with this podcast as well. If we get a big enough audience, we're going to end up taking donations and try to do some charitable work with those donations.
Like give it to some place that's actually going to use it and actually make like a practical use of it.
A real good nonprofit. We'll find good organizations, trustable organizations, or even just public schools.
Or maybe
we're going to get the money to good people.
Listeners can offer us someplace.
Also, if you're someone out there who takes some of these pharmaceutical drugs and you've been thinking about getting off of them, you don't like them, you can try
stories. We'd love to hear some real life stories.
All that stuff, but also just try something else. If you are one of these people who want to come off and you're worried that you can't, try meditation. And I'm not talking about sit down for 60 seconds in silence and say, I can't do this is frustrating. It took me personally 40 or 50 times of sitting down and trying to calm my mind before I really feel like I was able to do so. And if I didn't keep trying the extra 40 times, I wouldn't have realized how beneficial meditation can be.
There's a great
and
saying,
not just meditation, there's plenty of stuff you can do.
Just to go off of that small point, is that it's not the 1,001 time that finally got you it. It was the 1,000 times that you failed before that got you that success.
Yeah, look at Edison with the light bulb. He failed making a light bulb hundreds of times, and he kept going, and he finally created the light bulbs we basically still use today.
If you honestly and genuinely are honest about not having time to volunteer, which you do, go outside and pick up some trash on the street.
Anything.
And if you...
Or just help your own family.
Just to say something to get off my chest, if you consciously litter, you are a scum. All right? Go outside and do something for the earth. If you can't do something for some people, do something for the earth and pick up some trash.
Oh, one more thing. We don't live on the earth. We live in the earth. Let's make that clear. When people say, I live on the earth, or we're here on planet Earth. No, we're here inside planet Earth. We are literally enveloped in this planet. This planet is just as much as part of us as the skin on your body, the eyeballs in your head, the ears on your head. The planet is just as much as part of you as the feet you can look down at right now. You are a part of this planet. You're inside this planet. You're not on it. You're in it.
And that's gonna do it, folks, for our second episode. We love you here at A Dose of Reality. Thank you for your time and your ears. So grateful.
I hope this was worth every minute of your time. Hope you all have a wonderful week.